Welcome back to GMP Scenario, presented by PharmaContentLabs.com.
You know that feeling, right? You're in a high-stakes audit, an inspector asks a really simple question, and the entire room just goes quiet. And in that silence, you realize a tiny decision is about to snowball into a huge problem. Well, today, we're going to talk about exactly how that happens with so-called minor deviations. And, more importantly, how you can stop it from ever happening again.
All right, let's just jump right into it. I want you to picture this scene. An FDA inspection is happening at your facility. It's all going pretty smoothly, you know? But then, the inspector pulls out one single file from your quality system.
And the issue itself? It seems like nothing. It's just a small documentation delay. A signature was a day late. I mean, come on, this kind of stuff happens all the time in the real world of operations. It's just a minor hiccup, right? Just a little bump in the road.
So, your quality assurance team. They're busy, they're trying to keep things efficient and keep the line moving. They look at it, make a quick judgment call, and they classify the deviation as minor. Seems perfectly reasonable. No big deal.
Because it was minor, the event gets logged and closed out fast. The main goal here was speed, resolution, get it off the books. But, and this is a big but, a really critical step got skipped. There was no solid, written-down justification for why it was considered minor.
And right here, this is the pivot point. This is the exact moment the whole game changes. The inspector just kind of leans in, looks down at the file, and asks one very simple question.
Show me the impact assessment. Show me the evidence that proves this was minor. And then nothing. Just silence. Because that proof, it doesn't exist. And just like that, a minor issue just became a major headache.
So let's be really clear about this. The problem wasn't delete signature. Not at all. The real problem was the complete lack of a defensible reason for calling it minor. So let's unpack what's actually going on here.
This right here, this is the heart of the matter. A minor classification that doesn't have any objective evidence to back it up, well, that's not actually a classification. In the eyes of a regulator, it is a risk. It's basically just an unsupported opinion, and in an audit, opinions are liabilities.
And this explains exactly why. You have to understand, inspection teams are literally trained to hunt for these gaps. When they see a decision without a documented rationale, it's like a flare going off. It signals a potential weakness. And an undocumented justification isn't just an oversight. It's a trigger for them to start digging a whole lot deeper. Now, let's look at how this one tiny miss can create a massive ripple effect. Because this isn't just about one file anymore. It's about the story that one file tells about your entire quality system.
See, when you fail to justify these small decisions, you might actually be sweeping bigger, systemic problems under the rug. It completely undermines the credibility of your whole quality system. And for an inspector, it's a huge red flag that signals weak governance and, honestly, a potential lack of control.
And this is the classic trap that inspectors are always on the lookout for. The common mistake, the wrong move, is to rush and call something minor just to keep production on schedule. But the right mindset, the one that regulators need to see, is that a strong rationale isn't about slowing you down. It's about proving that you are in complete control of your processes.
Okay, so how do we avoid this whole mess? The good news is there's a really clear, actionable framework you can use to build a system that is totally bulletproof and, most importantly, super easy to defend when someone asks.
It really just comes down to 3 simple but really powerful steps. First, you have to define. Define your severity criteria right in your procedures, before anything even happens. This takes all the guesswork out of it. Second, you document. Document a solid impact assessment every single time. And think broadly. What's the impact on the product, the patient, the process, your data integrity? And finally, you link. Link your final classification directly back to that evidence you just documented and to the procedure you already defined. See? It creates this perfect, unbroken chain of logic that's almost impossible to argue with.
All right, to make this super practical, let's really break down what needs to be in that final record to keep an inspector happy. You can think of this as your go-to checklist for building a defensible record.
Okay, your file absolutely has to clearly state the rationale for the severity you chose. It needs to point to the objective evidence you used to make that decision. It has to include what happened to the product, the disposition decision. You also need to justify why you did or did not open a CAPA. And finally, you need clear, undeniable proof of QA review and management oversight. This isn't just about ticking boxes. This is your proof that you did your due diligence.
So I'll leave you with this question. I want you to go back and really look at your own system. When your team calls something minor, is it a genuine, well-documented classification that's built on a foundation of evidence? Or is it a risk, just sitting silently in a file, waiting for someone to ask the right question?
Thank you for watching. If this helped, like and subscribe. More GMP scenarios coming.